What is your I don't get paid enough for this beep moment?
Plumber. Owner of a mobile home called and said they had a stinky yard. I could smell it when I pulled up. The mobile home was new and had only been set up for about 8 months. While setting it up, someone didn't tighten a no-hub band of the toilet in the kids' bathroom. 8 months of flush toilet was all over the ground, under the home, and had just started being noticed outside. I told the homeowner to call the guys that set it up to come fix it. I wasn't crawling under there.
I'm a public librarian. I was helping someone in the computer room and turned to tell someone he needed to keep his exclamations at the video he was watching down. Just then, the woman I was helping leapt aside because the man I was shushing pissed himself. It ran down onto the jacket he had tied around his waist, down the chair, onto the ground. Turns out he'd snuck in alcohol and was totally blackout drunk. I told him he had to leave. He put the piss-covered jacket on and stumbled out. As I returned with gloves and cleaning supplies, another patron decided this was a good time to complain about some kids who were making noise. I took a deep breath and said, "This is a good time for us all to appeal to our higher selves and do our best in the moment. Please just adapt for a minute." Then I thought about the student loans I took out for the master's degree as I scrubbed up piss.
I worked at Circuit City when I was 17. Heard a noise of packaging being opened in the movie section, found a guy crouched down cutting open DVD boxes and stealing the discs. He looked at me, held his knife out and said, "Got a problem?" I just replied, "I don't get paid enough for this beep," and backed off. I went to the back room of the warehouse area to call a manager to tell them what happened. Never could get a hold of anyone, so I just chilled in the warehouse area for a half hour to decompress.
When I was doing 90% of my boss job in hopes of a full-time promotion that I had been promised for 3 years, and he took all the credit and told me my promotion wasn't in the budget.
I was volunteering at a state park. One of the paid park rangers would drive people around to various locations to work, then come check on you throughout the day. Beep tried to drop me off at the bathrooms and told me to clean them. I was like, "Nope, that's not happening. I'm here to work outside." She told me, "You're gonna do whatever I tell you to do or I won't sign off on your hours." Then I had to explain that not everyone who volunteered to work was there because they'd been sentenced to community service. Edit, didn't get an actual apology, but I ended up working on removing some invasive plants that day, at a nice spot overlooking a river, instead of cleaning toilets. And worked with different park rangers for the rest of the time I volunteered there.
Grocery store cashier. The customer was angry because her cereal had rung up wrong. I called a price check and this lady berated me the whole time. I recall that she accused me of trying to steal from her. Said she was going to get me fired. I looked at her and said, "I make $7.25 per hour no matter how much you pay for this cereal, so I do not give a beep how this situation turns out." She stared at me in shock. The price check comes back saying the price scanned correctly. Silence. I said, "So do you want the cereal or not?" She said, "Yes." And that was that. She did not complain to the manager.
I worked at a heating and air conditioning company doing bookkeeping. I was being trained by the company's accountant. If I made a mistake, the owner would literally scream at me full voice. I overheard him talking to his brother, and his brother had told him not to scream at me. The owner said, "You have to tear them down to build them up." I decided I wasn't going to take another day of his screaming after that.
I ran the entire company's financials and general management for $14 per hour. I had a meeting with the owner telling him I need a raise and to hire an assistant. He told me I wasn't business-minded and should be a stay-at-home mom. I quit the next day.
Bagging groceries at a major supermarket. The manager came over to tell me that I needed to clean up the bathroom. An elderly gentleman fell off the toilet while pooping and it was a literal beep. Apparently I was the most qualified because I was 16. I was handed a broom and a dustpan. "I beep you not, sorry had to, my reward for going above and beyond the call of duty. $5 in-store coupons. Sometimes dreams really do come true."
First day at the health department, I'm left at the reception desk alone while literally everyone else in the office went out to a farewell lunch for the person I was replacing. As I was on 90-day probation, wasn't yet licensed and badged, my pay was $7.96 per hour. I'm sitting at reception, and some redneck comes in with a leaking garbage bag and drops it on my desk. It contains a newly beheaded javelina head. His buddy had been bitten, and it needed to be tested for rabies ASAP. I had no beep clue what to do with a leaking garbage bag of javelina head. He couldn't wait for others to return, so he left a number and split. Turns out, we don't do that sort of thing at the health department. Guy refused to come back.
I was a manager for a well-known lingerie store. Our location was in a failing suburban mall. The store was giant and shaped oddly. There were dressing rooms in odd hidden corners and a few blind spots. The store was located at the end of the mall next to other stores no one really went to, so there wasn't much foot traffic. We were also always short-staffed because no one wanted to work out there. All of those factors made us a prime location for thieves and weirdos. I would have to do laps around the store due to its layout, and I would regularly come across people doing sex stuff in this one secluded little dressing room. The dressing room was in a sort of alcove and was the least visible spot in the store, so it was prime real estate for all kinds of shenanigans. It ranged from women doing strip teases for men, to catching couples having oral sex, to catching couples having penetrative sex, to catching men masturbating. The final straw was catching a man at closing time, masturbating into a pile of cotton panties with the dressing room door wide open. I couldn't take it anymore. I put in my notice the next day. And what was crazy was that corporate always shrugged or laughed it off when I would call and complain that we needed a security guard. I was 21 at the time, and every woman that worked there was between 19 to 30. It was a safety issue, and they'd also blame us for all the merchandise theft, which we were unable to prevent because there weren't enough bodies in that gigantic store to prevent it. I was also dating a guy who also worked in the mall, and he told me that they finally closed up that one dressing room not long after I left. He said a lot of folks were pissed because apparently that one little dressing room was a well-known open secret spot for hooking up.
Doing volunteer work and some busybody started bossing me around like they were in charge, a neighborhood association type person. I told them to back the beep off. It took a couple of seconds for people to realize that the person barking orders wasn't a boss, but an asshole that was used to being in control. Edit. I didn't expect this to blow up. Just to clarify, if the person is in a position of responsibility, such as treasurer or coordinator, then they have a reason to delegate tasks to some extent. I also didn't use the words, back the beep off. It had the same impact and pulled the rug from under him. I don't think it's nice to be overly rude in return because a lot of ignorant people are basically ignorant in the true sense. If you find yourself in a position that you're in charge of organizing an event with volunteers, then you'll need to have a degree of humility that isn't often seen enough in business.
When I was 20, I had 3 jobs. I worked as a bank teller from 8 to 4, then as a closing shift manager at a coffee shop from 5 to 10, then as an overnight janitor from 11 to 2 a.m. This wasn't every day, but it was enough that it equated to about 80 hours a week between the 3 jobs, and yes, you can imagine this would lead to burnout real fast. So at the overnight janitor gig, my boss comes over to me and asks me to come to the office for a review. This was weird. All I did was mop floors on a production line that made air train brakes. But whatever. I go into his office and he closes the door behind me and pulls out a gay porn magazine and starts asking me about different dicks and put his hand on my shoulder. I was surprisingly calm and just said I don't like dicks and went back to work. Then it hit me what happened. I called in sick the rest of the week and picked up my final paycheck when he wasn't there. It was a hard enough job without being sexually harassed for $8.50 an hour.
I used to work at Old Country Buffet, and there were kids who would eat until they threw up like all the time. This one case that is seared into my mind was when I was once fixing up the salad bar and I heard, "Billy run!" screamed from an ignorant parent, and then I see this 12-ish-year-old boy running to the bathroom, only he didn't make it. An unholy amount of undigested red Jell-O came exploded out of him like a beep volcano all over the Caesar salad, the floor next to the cash register, and on about 5 or 6 diners waiting in line to get in. It looked like he had literally vomited his guts out in an arc about 10 feet in diameter. I had to sweep up the chunks with a broom until a dishwasher with a mop could take care of the rest.
I was working in a grocery store one time, and as I was checking people out, one lady came up to me and the very first thing out of her mouth was, "You're a failure and an embarrassment to humanity. If you were my kid, I'd beat your ass right here right now." I had done literally nothing but ask how she was. Like what? Then her card declined Lamau. Edit. Yo 8K, this is nuts. It's crazy how many people got beep on or know someone who got beep on in retail. Just remember, kids, you are worth more than this. You deserve a job that makes you happy and covers the bills. Don't settle for being treated like this. Quit, send them to your manager, or just beat their punk old asses. You are valid and valuable. Don't let others determine your self-worth.
I worked at Walmart for less than a month in 2009. I scanned a big box fan for a guy and it didn't ring up, so I said, "I gotta do a price check on this, I apologize." The guy said, "It's $24.99, you beep idiot." I stared at him for a moment, then reached up and turned my little register light off, turned around, walked out to my car, and went home. Beep that beep.
I used to work in a mall music store, back when that was a thing. There was a corporate policy to play new music regularly, because that's the beep thing you're trying to sell. My boss, every single day she worked, would play the entire Madonna album, Ray of Light. Hours of the same 8 beep songs. For most of a year, until it was either go mad, commit murder, or bail. I bailed. That music franchise went under a little over a year later. I hold Madonna and my old boss responsible.
Worked at a retail store. Fiends would come in occasionally looking to steal beep, and the worst we could do legally was ask them to leave, but my boss insisted we get physical with them, to which I obviously told her beep no. I watched her chase one out of the store one day and she screams at me since I'm standing by the door like, "Tackle him," and I'm like, no LMAO.
I have a mildly irrational fear of spiders. I was asked to help clean out an old storage area/shed type building. It was covered in dust and a ton of these big black spiders, but a big enough space that I felt fine. Until my supervisor handed me a leaf blower and asked me to go through a back hallway with it. Opened the door to the hallway and it was cramped, just tall enough to be a little over my height and just wide enough for me to walk through. Except there was no light, so it was pitch black, until I held up my phone flashlight and saw the largest mess of tangled webs filled to the absolute brim with thousands of the big black spiders. Straight up refused to walk down that thing, especially with a leaf blower. Like, no thanks, I don't want to create a spider tornado. My supervisor was irritated with me that I refused to do this, but I would rather be fired than walk through the arachnid hell hallway for $10 an hour.
Working in a grocery store meat department during Thanksgiving, when every third customer asks if you have any larger turkeys in the back, and insists you go back to the walk-in freezer and sift through multiple pallets of frozen turkeys for the 80th time today. Edit. Wow, this blew up while I was busy at work. Thanks for the awards. I'll reply to everyone as soon as possible, smiley face. Edit 2. A lot of people are saying, just go chill in the back and play on your phone. That's exactly what the customer thinks you're doing, LMAO. Judging by the many responses like that, I guess they're mostly right, haha. To be fair though, sometimes we really are, but we usually already know what's in the back. Also, ironically, I didn't even realize how close we are to Thanksgiving when I posted this. Happy holidays everyone. Be nice to your retail workers and please try not to shop on the holidays.
When a thick stream of sweat drained out of this girl's cell phone case, I had to explain to her that her phone had water damage and that she shouldn't work out with her phone in her bra, all the while trying to be professional and not gag while cleaning the mess. I sold phones at Sprint.
Bartender here. Grown man threw a lit cigarette at my face and threatened me with physical violence. This was a year or so ago, but a 45, maybe older-year-old man behaving that way towards a 24-year-old female was definitely one of those moments. Plus the people getting handsy and occasional cleaning of vomit. I do not get paid enough.
Fishmonger in a grocery store. We got a large number of lobsters in, soft-shelled and already dying. So my manager decided we could at least sell their tails. Apparently lobsters don't really have a central nervous system, so when you sever the tails and put their tails on ice they freaking run away. So I had to chase these tails down because they've escaped into the rest of the display case, onto the floor, and hidden under our prep tables. Never again.
Teacher here. First grader asked me to wipe his butt after he pooped. Nope, nope, nope.
When I was a 911 telecommunicator, taking all those suicide calls, domestics with children, medical calls, people dying, officers getting shot, etc., did it for 16 years before enough was enough.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.